Welcome, everybody, to One Stage at a Time, the podcast where we're playing through video games one stage at a time, not skipping a single level. We have finished Doom. We are done with Doom. No more Doom talk here. But the armies of hell are not done with us yet because we have moved on to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This is the first episode of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and we are so excited. I am Rondo of Blood Neeson, and I'm joined by Andy Walker Prim. Hello, Andy.
As bad as those puns were, I'm just glad we're talking about this game and not that stupid fucking movie you made me watch last week.
And we are joined by Sam to Hell Ingersoll. Hello, Sam.
Hello.
Gentlemen, let's talk about Castlevania.
Well, that little voice you just did brings up a question I had, which is what voice are we going to do for Dracula throughout this whole series?
I want to suck your dick.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. There's also like the Gary Oldman sexy Dracula from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I think we have to do the sounds like the first one, but thinks he's the second one.
Yeah, there you go.
You guys don't want to do the bro Dracula from Blade Trinity, played by that guy from Prison Break?
God damn, I've seen that movie, but that was just wiped from my memory until you said that just now.
Yeah, it was such a bad film. It's not worth remembering.
I remember being like 15 and seeing those first two Blade movies and thinking, this is the coolest series ever. Then when they announced Blade Trinity, I was like really excited. And that was like one of the first moments of like seeing a sequel to something I liked and just being so disappointed by how bad it was.
For me, it was close around the same time. It was Elektra. I saw I remember the trailer was fucking cool as hell, and I don't even remember anything about that movie other than the disappointment that
there was a dude with living tattoos or something.
Yeah, not as cool as you may think. It seemed really cool in the trailer, not very cool. When I just don't remember anything about the movie. I just remember here. Let me tell you, this is how disappointed I was. I was so into that trailer. I saw Elektra. I hadn't even seen Daredevil. I still haven't seen Daredevil.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were just simping for Elektra is what it
sounds like. Hard.
Well, who wasn't in mid-2000s for Jennifer Garner? I mean, come on.
Fair point.
Yeah, you had no choice.
Point. Some of it, yes, some of us still are. There's probably still some Jay Garner super fans out there. Well, shit, guys, we got a brand new game this season on One Stage at a Time, and it is, as Aaron said in the intro, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, released for the PlayStation 1 in 1997, published by Konami, a company you may have heard of. This game was maybe the 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th game in the Castlevania franchise, depending on how you look at it. This franchise is one of the dumbest and like lore-wise just most complicated franchises in history. and we're gonna get into it. I mean, there's so much to talk about here.
It's Konami, right?
Konami.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think it's just like through like weird like time is not a linear line. Being that close to Kojima and Metal Gear Solid, it like seeped into it, and it had to be that convoluted and backwards. No choice.
They didn't mean to. It was like Tenet, like Kojima learned how to go backwards in time, and so after he did Metal Gear, he like went backwards in time, and then that's why
planted the seeds.
Yeah, but he created all the games in reverse order because he was moving in the reverse flow of the time stream.
Before the last game he makes will be tying the two together.
Yeah, exactly. But he'll have to go through a turnstile, so he makes his way back to the future before he can do that.
The last game he makes will be the first game again.
Yeah. Exactly. And that will be that is and will be Death Stranding, the final game.
Yeah, the final Death Stranding type game, Stranding type game as he calls them.
Yeah, the first Strand type game.
Yeah.
Or also the last Strand type game, as it turned out. Well, okay, so I wanted to ask you guys, before we get into this game, by the way, we're going to talk about the first level of Castlevania Symphony of the Night today, which is the prologue area. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you guys, what are like your general experiences with the Castlevania franchise? Because, I mean, this is one that goes back to the NES, and then pretty much through every generation of consoles. almost
Ever?
until present day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of petered out a little bit, but yeah, I mean, like, did you guys play these games growing up? Were you fans of Castlevania?
I
Go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead. You go first.
I was gonna say I have never played a Castlevania game before. My only exposure to Castlevania has been the Netflix show, really, and playing as Richter or whoever in Smash Brothers, because I didn't have any systems really that had any Castlevania games on them. Like we had a Genesis, which I'm not sure if it had any Castlevania games on it.
Well, I'll tell you, it did.
It did? Okay. Well, we were busy with Sonic, so I guess we just never. And then let's see. The N64 had Castlevania 64, I know, but I always heard it was not so good, so I didn't even bother with
Castlevania No Apocalypse or something in Japanese. Way cooler name in Japan for that game.
Well, the Nintendo 64 had a rule. If you have a game out on the Nintendo 64, it had to have 64 in the fucking title. It wasn't getting published.
Yeah, just unbreakable law.
Why didn't the Xbox 360 do that? That would have been interesting.
That would have been great.
Banjo Kazooie 360.
Probably because they realized how stupid it was.
How stupid it was.
Castlevania 360.
So no experience. That's kind of where you're coming in blind, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, you're playing the best fucking one first, then. So
yep, that's exactly right.
Which is good, but that just means if I play another one, I'm going to be disappointed, right? This is like an impossible standard here.
Not really, because as I'm sure we'll get into, it's not that it's the best. It's the best because it's like if anime fans say that Cowboy Bebop is the best anime ever. Mm-hmm. It's because it pivoted anime, like it changed anime going forward, and that's what this changed. At least those kinds of like Castlevania games became something completely different after this game.
That's absolutely true.
But for me, I've dabbled. I'll say. The first one I played, I didn't actually play. It was back when my dad was playing our Super Nintendo. I remember watching him play Super Castlevania 4.
Yep.
Another one with lots of cursing coming from my dad.
Yep.
That game's a bit of a bitch.
Yep.
This was the first Castlevania I played, and boy, I've played a lot. I've played this game maybe 3 or 4 times. I've dabbled. I haven't played really much of the Game Boy, like the DS versions, which are definitely like successors of this game. I played both the PS2 Castlevanias, which they're varying quality. Each one, they're pretty different.
They do. Yeah, they're pretty uneven.
I played both of the, I guess you could say, the PS3 era Castlevania games, which are really, really different, but also really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've dipped my toe in a lot of Castlevania, but the only one I've really gotten into and played and like dug deep into is this game.
Okay, so you've dabbled a bit in the milieu of Castlevania, but but I'm kind of like you, Sam. I've played most of the games at some point. I've even beaten a few of them, but Symphony of the Night is definitely the one I've come back to the most times because it is the best one. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with that. Maybe you could split it into the Metroidvania style of games versus like the traditional 2D style of games and kind of compare them that way. But definitely among the Metroidvanias, this is the best one. And we should probably talk about that because we're going to be saying the phrase Metroidvania, I think, a lot over the course of this series. We should probably just talk about what the fuck that means. And for all the pedants out there, because there's people on the internet that don't like the term Metroidvania. And we can talk about why. But the reason it's called Metroidvania is because Castlevania was a traditional 2D side-scrolling franchise, one stage at a time. You'd go through all the levels block by block. I think the first game had like 7 or 8 stages or something, boss at the end of each stage, traditional style. And then the first, 4 to 7 games in the series on various consoles all followed that format. And this was the one that really broke out of it. And so, but you got to go back to like Metroid on the NES to like see where this style of game developed. It wasn't like the first open world adventure game platformer like that. There were like some antecedents on like other weird consoles that came before, but Metroid's the one everyone thinks of. So, you got Samus Aran, open world, it's divided into different areas, but there's nothing stopping you from going anywhere. You're looking for items. It's relatively open-ended. There's nothing stopping you. You can go in various different directions. You have to accomplish a few specific goals to open up the final area and clear the game. But other than that, there's not a lot of direction. There's not a lot of like dialogue. You're just, you kind of figure it out just by observation and making mental maps of the areas.
Big focus on exploration.
Big focus on exploration.
Yeah. And exploration and item-based, what's the word? Like gating.
Yeah.
Like where you can see that there's a place you can go, but you just for some reason you can't get there. So then you backtrack and run around and explore some more. Oh, I found the ice gun or the missiles, so I can open this door. Or hey, I've got the mist, so I can now go through the gates. That plus the map plus a couple other things. Plus these two games, Super Metroid and this game being so fucking like massive hits, is what kind of fused the term together. And I'm guessing most of the people that have problems with the name are Nintendo fanboys because well, Metroid did it first. Kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, you better believe it, brother. Of course, it's Nintendo fanboys. Yeah, because I think originally when Symphony of the Night came out, people started calling it Metroidvania because to distinguish it from what had come before, because it was like Metroid. But then the term Metroidvania began to apply to any game in this style, meaning an open world platforming game.
Souls-like.
Yeah.
Like that term, that's another similar thing where any like that style of gameplay became known as our Metroidvania.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And they still happen today. I mean, you still label that on things today.
Totally. Yeah. Like Hollow Knight, good example of a Metroidvania. Axiom Verge.
Bloodstained, Ritual of the Moon.
Yep. Guacamelee, Bloodstained.
Which is actually by the guy who made this one.
Yes. Yeah. We should talk about him because sometimes these games are called Igavanias, named after Koji Igarashi. But he's often known by the first three letters of his last name, IGA or Iga. So all the games in this style, which he produced most of them, or if not all of them, but they're sometimes called Igavanias. But eventually he left Konami and now he makes his own games like the Bloodstained series. But I did want to point out that this is not the first open world platforming Castlevania adventure game. Real heads out there will of course be familiar with Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest for the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is an open world platforming adventure game, but it's also relatively infamous for sucking. Have you guys played this game or seen videos of it? Are you familiar with it?
I've seen some. I just know that it also was, air quotes, open world, not like, not like Ghost and Goblins where like you beat this and then it shows a map opening up to like the next stage and it's just another set level. But like open up, you can explore and backtrack and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I have not played it at all, believe it or not.
Okay.
So what made it a huge piece of shit?
Well, it's not as bad as some people say, but it's not that great either. But basically the structure of it is like, unlike the first Castlevania game, it's totally open world. There's different towns you can go to. Like, you walk right out of town, then you're in the forest, you keep walking right. Eventually you get to a mansion. You can go up or down. You end up at another town. There's all kinds of places you can go to, but they're all interconnected. And the object of the game is to visit these 5 different mansions and get an object inside them. And then eventually you can go and defeat Dracula once you do all that. But accessing all of them is incredibly obtuse. You have to get various items to open up various areas. But you have to do stupid bullshit like equip the red gem and then kneel in place for 10 seconds in a specific area. And then the whirlwind will carry you away. And also the townspeople who are supposed to give you clues when you talk to them, they straight up lie to you. And apparently in the Japanese version, it was evident which ones were lying and which ones are telling the truth, but that didn't make it over to the English version. So it's just nonsense. You don't know who to believe, and it's all mistranslated anyway, so it doesn't matter.
It sounds like, they had a great idea, but they didn't have video games, the whole didn't have the right, vocabulary, like the way to implement that and make it work in a game.
Yeah.
So it was, and I'm sure the movement was old school, goddamn shitty ass Castlevania, where you jump forward. If you get hit, you fall back, no movement in the air,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. And so I'm sure that's one of the things that makes Symphony of the Night fun, is that you have insane mobility. Like you're zip zapping and zooping all over the fucking place. So like when you have to backtrack, it's not so bad. And there's also fast travel points and stuff like that. So it's not nearly as horrible as I assume it was for Castlevania 2.
Yeah,
not quite as tedious and frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. In a way, Castlevania 2 is easier and more forgiving than Castlevania 1 because you have infinite continues and you level up and like your attacks get stronger, and you can, like, when you die, you restart relatively close to where you were. And so like the gameplay aspect of it isn't the problem. It's the like figuring out what to do next.
Okay.
And the quote unquote puzzle solving, it's the problem. But it's an interesting game. I remember playing it as a kid and being completely baffled by like what I was supposed to do, but like wanting to know more about it. Like I was curious, like, there was enough like engaging like mystery there to make me want to figure it out. I never did. I mean, it was just way too obtuse. But later as an adult, I watched videos of it and I was like, okay, yeah, no human would ever figure out to do that.
Fuck that game.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that brings us to 1997's Castlevania Symphony of the Night, made by a variety of people who worked at Konami at the time, and we'll talk about all of them. But fellas, I think we may as well just get into the first stage of this game. But one last thing before we do that, we should set the stage. I have here the instruction manual for Castlevania Symphony of the Night from the Sony PlayStation, from a copy of this game that I own for PlayStation 1.
Cool.
And in the I'm not sure if it's very valuable or not. Probably not. But
it's greatest hits, so probably not.
Yeah. But in the manual here, we have a little prologue, which I can read part of to you guys here. But this is the lore setting the stage here. It was Richter Belmont, the legendary vampire hunter, who succeeded in finally ending the menace of Count Dracula, Lord of the Vampires, who had been brought back from the grave by the dark priest Shaft. However, one night 4 years later, under the glare of a full moon, Richter mysteriously vanished. With no idea of where to begin her search, Maria Renard set out to look for him. It was then that fate intervened. Castlevania, the Castle of Dracula, which is rumored to appear once every century, suddenly materialized from out of the mist as if to show her the way. Meanwhile, powerful forces were struggling for the soul of a man named Alucard, the very same Alucard who had teamed up with Trevor Belmont to battle his immortal father, Count Vlad Tepes Dracula. Alucard, in order to purge the world of his own cursed bloodline, had submerged his vampiric powers and entered into what was supposed to be an eternal slumber. But now he is awake and aware of the evil once again at work in his homeland. The time has once again come for the forces of good and evil to engage in their ancient battle. Dracula's castle beckons you, and no man can say who shall emerge victorious. So there you go, folks.
That was a thunder crash.
Oh, okay. Thank you for explaining what the Foley work there was on the thunder crash. You should get like a whole Foley setup with like a sheet of metal that you like wiggle back and forth to make thunder.
Some coffee cans.
Yeah. Just a couple gourds to bang on. Yeah.
All right.
A slide whistle.
Let's take a look here at the first stage. And by the way, because this is a Metroidvania game, it's not going to follow like necessarily a traditional like one stage at a time classic format, but it is like divided enough up into like discrete areas that will make it work. But the first stage of the game is also the final stage of the game. It's a flashback to a previous game in the series. So when we walk into the stage, it says final stage Bloodlines. So this is not to be confused with the game Castlevania Bloodlines, which is a different game. This is from the game Castlevania Rondo of Blood. Okay. So Castlevania Bloodlines was a game for the Sega Genesis, which is a pretty cool game. But Castlevania Rondo of Blood is a game for the TurboGrafx, aka the PC Engine, which was not officially released in North America for a while. It has been now, but when Symphony of the Night originally came out, we had never played Rondo of Blood, so we didn't have any idea what this was.
The beginning of the game is super confusing if you don't know that. There's a lot of characters, and like obviously there's some stuff that was going on beforehand that they never really talk about too much. They just assume you know what's up. You don't.
Yeah, I think I was like vaguely aware of that, but like all the stuff with like Richter and Maria Reynard and Shaft, it's all like direct references to what happened in Rondo of Blood. So you don't strictly need to know that to enjoy this game, but there's like a lot of references. Like the two games share a lot of DNA. So we'll talk about some of the various connections as we play through it.
Can I ask what's a rondo?
A rondo is a type of music.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's a classical kind of thing. I
okay,
believe, right?
Yes, yeah, and a lot of the games in the franchise have musical titles: Rondo of Blood, Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow, Harmony of Dissonance, so on and so forth.
Okay,
but that's mostly an American thing, I think, because in Japan these games are not called Castlevania; they're called Akumajo Dracula, which means Demon Castle Dracula. Yeah, but
really hitting the nail on the head there.
Yeah. And I'm not exactly sure why that was changed. I've heard that maybe it was because Nintendo was afraid of like talking about demons, because like on the NES, they were afraid of having like Christian symbolism and things like that. I don't know if that's really true, but that's something that I heard on the internet. So, take it for what you will.
So I'm watching this guy do all this stuff here. So, and my playthrough of it was very different. My playthrough was very bare bones. Jump, hit, duck, jump, hit.
All a waste of time.
He's doing all these flips and these diddly doos, and I didn't do any of that.
I pressed 2 buttons. That's how I beat Dracula.
Yeah.
You literally
no. I mean, I only pressed one button twice, and I beat Dracula. He is extremely easy. Oh, you just have to do the item crash with the holy water, and one use drains his entire life bar each time.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's hard, because I didn't struggle with him, because I was like, this guy's really easy for especially the first enemy that we're facing in this game. But
it is true,
but like he's doing all this stuff, and I'm like, I didn't do any of this stuff.
That's the interesting thing about this game is that, so first of all the stuff he's doing, you couldn't do it in Rondo of Blood. This is all still specific to Castlevania. But there are I think all the characters have secret moves, and they're like inputs that are similar to like fighting games. And they're all there, whether you know them or not. And so like, yeah, all of his secret moves, you can look them up on the internet basically. Or I think they might be in the manual maybe for him.
Some are in the manual, but others are not. So you'd have to look it up or figure it out.
Okay.
I remembered a couple. He's the super jump. I remember how to do that one.
By the way, we should explain that we're not playing as Alucard, even though that's the main character of the game. If you're just listening to this and you're confused, we're in this prologue. We play as Richter Belmont. So we are not Alucard. He's nowhere to be seen. We're basically replaying the final stage of Rondo of Blood, except that Richter is a lot more athletic than he was in that game.
You couldn't even move in the air in Rondo of Blood.
Yeah. If you've ever played Smash Brothers Ultimate, if you've played Richter in that game, very similar to how he handles in Symphony of the Night. He can do sliding dashes. He can do like uppercuts. He's got the sub weapons, the cross, the holy water. He can do these item crashes where if you have enough sauce and you press the triangle button, you do like a special move where like with the holy water, it's Hydro Storm, where a bunch of like acid rain rains down. And when you do like the cross, it's like a big cross comes and spins around on the screen. It looks pretty tight. But yeah, Richter is an athletic boy. He can do, but he's still got the whip. He's still got the Belmont whip. So it's very precise how you use it. But he can also like brandish it in front of him if you hold the button, which is pretty cool. Which is not something he could do in
Exactly.
Rondo
Yeah.
of Blood.
Another
that
thing
Belmont,
they what?
sorry,
Sorry?
I was just gonna say that Belmont whip. It has a special name, doesn't it?
It does.
Vampire Slayer or something like that.
Vampire Killer.
Killer,
Vampire Killer.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, flying sidekicks and all kinds of fun things that you don't need to do, but they're fun to do.
Yeah. Well, I should also tell you guys that this is a long play, so whoever is operating this is cheating. They're slowing the game down and using save states to make it look like they're better at the game than they are.
Okay.
Yeah. Anytime you see a long play, that's usually what's happening, because the point is to demonstrate the game. So they're demonstrating skillful play, and they do that by cheating. Usually, the person operating the game isn't actually this good at it.
But there's a lot to break down in such a small little part of the game. One thing that I had forgotten about till I played, we started up this play and I was doing a little research, is how much, you fight Dracula. It's super easy. It kind of leads into the plot of the actual game. But there are all these hidden modifiers to how you beat Dracula that will modify how you start the game as Alucard.
Yes.
A couple, like the best one is if you beat Dracula in under a minute, it's +5 to all of your stats, all
That's
your core
crazy.
stats.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So I got to start over.
We don't have it. Does,
That's
no,
what
it
I
does
mean.
not
Yeah,
matter.
This
Trust me.
game is easy enough to break that it
You
truly
can-
doesn't matter.
Destroy the game. You don't need, the stats are inconsequential.
Yeah.
Really, there are ways people have come up with to make the game harder, because you can, like, you don't even need weapons to be good at this game. It's like his fists are good enough.
Yeah.
Alucard's fists are good enough to beat the game.
You can just use spells and beat the game.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So, and another, like I was saying with hidden moves, all the spells are there if you know the inputs. When you buy the spell at the stores, you're actually buying a note that tells you how to do it. But if you already know it, you can do them all right off the bat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is
okay.
super
Some of
cool.
them are really powerful.
Yeah, just they fucking break the game.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But we're getting way, way, way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
yes.
There's
So
things. Yeah, go ahead.
you mentioned how it can affect your stats, your performance in this opening stage. It can also affect, I believe, what items Alucard starts with is in his inventory. There's certain like consumable weapons that are like screen nukes that if you, I'm not sure what the calculation is exactly, but I know you can make it so you start with those.
And real quick, we need to mention this too. All these things we're saying were never in a Castlevania game.
Yes.
Having like stats and equipment and usable items, all of that brand new, not just to a Castlevania game, but to the Metroid style of gameplay as well. Like you didn't have, like you had different weapon types, but you did not have like full like RPG style stats, and you could level up, like you said in 2, right? I don't know if you had stats in 2 actually.
Kind of. I mean, all these games have hidden stats like your HP and how much damage you deal and things like that. But they're not
full blown.
Yeah.
RPG, strength, dex, luck,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Where you have like base stats and derived stats and things like that. Yeah. This was the first one that did that for sure.
And there are a lot of items in this game. Many, many weapons, many types of weapons, shields, capes, and they all look different when you use them, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Even the capes look different, which is neat. A nice little, addition.
Well,
Dude, it's Fashion Souls before there was Fashion
Yeah.
Souls.
and say it's interesting. Like as we progress through this series, like we're now at the point where like that's going to be like much more commonplace. Like it's like interesting costume changes and like just the graphics looking gorgeous, which they do in this game. This game is beautiful so far. Like it's it's rudimentary by our standards now, but it really does look fantastic, and it's nice. It's nice.
And it sounds fantastic. This game has some nostalgic ass sound effects.
It really
Anytime you
does.
kill something in this game, like explosion sound effects, it's just like I'm back in middle school playing this shit again.
My mind has been transported back in time.
Great music, great sound effects. Early, it's really good 2D with like some mix of 3D, like the doors are 3D, the save points are 3D. There's effects, cool little things that I like when you do you teleport, there's
Mhm.
rubble on the ground that gets picked up and sucked into it with you, like small things to make the 2D sprites even more interesting, like additions to it.
I agree. Yeah, this was a time when like everyone was making like 3D games. This game came out in 1997, and for anyone who's curious what else came out in 1997, the answer is nothing.
Didn't Final Fantasy VII come out in 97?
Yeah, it did. But besides that, nothing else.
Yeah.
Like Crash Bandicoot 2, I think that was another big one. But like for the PlayStation 1, not a lot of like huge games came out. Uh, for the N64, there were probably some things that were big, but
I was gonna say, was it 98 that Ocarina of Time came out?
it may have been. I'm not sure. 97 or 98. I think Mario Kart 64 was around this time too.
Hmm.
But but yeah, like Sam said, Final Fantasy 7 was like the big one this year for PS1.
Now, you were dancing around it, Sam, when you were talking about all the all the sound effects taking you back to another time and how beautiful and well done they were doing. You neglected to mention the incredible voice acting.
Oh, it's equally nostalgic for me. I mean, it's like hilarious how bad it is, but that was like,
that's how it was back then.
Yeah,
And there's a sincerity to it. It feels authentic in a way. Like
when did Star Fox come out?
Probably around this time.
When is Star Fox? That's at the bar for voice acting in video games for years.
But I like it. For me, I just picture like a bunch of people who maybe don't really know exactly what they're doing, like in a booth and like recording this, slapping this stuff down, dubbing over Japanese, like what the Japanese lines were, and like having to deal with like poorly translated words. The famous line, "What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets." That's super, like people quote that shit all the time.
Yeah, and that's Dracula says that to Richter when you confront him in this stage. But what you just described, Sam, is almost exactly what happened in the voice recording of this game. From what I can understand, the English voice cast of this game were non-professional voice actors who just happened to be English-speaking people living in Japan at the time. And answered an ad or were recruited or something to do VO on this game. And so really they just kind of slapped it together. But you can tell like the people, like they might not be like the best trained, but they're having fun, like they're enjoying it. They're not too concerned about being too literal with the Japanese script, They're making it their own, they're having fun. And it's great. I love it.
There's something with their performance. There's something almost Shakespearean about it. Like it's very very dramatic and over the top, and not like Shakespeare is generally done by good actors, but still the same energy.
Yeah. I love, like, I don't remember the line exactly, but how much of an edgelord Dracula is when like he's talking about like eating, but you eat people's souls. It's like, can't that be said of all religions? Or something along those. I don't remember what he says.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's such a fucker. It's great.
And so like they're really hamming it up. Like, these people are reading the lines going, oh my God. All right, let's do it. Come on. Yeah. Like the guy who played the doctor character in the Doom movie, right? Like he knew where he was, he knew what this movie was gonna be, so he just ate it up, and just like rolled with it.
He had a ball. Yeah, that's exactly right. And they have re-recorded the voice acting for this game for the PSP release of this game when it was included as part of a collection, the Dracula X Chronicles or something like that, where they remade Rondo of Blood. But yeah, they re-recorded it with professional voice actors, or whatever passes for professional voice actors today at any rate. And it sucks. I mean, they just like it's probably more literal, and technically better, but it's like they took all the life out of it. And unfortunately, the version I'm playing on PS4 in the Requiem collection uses the PSP voice acting. It's just it just feels like such a shame. You just lose something, without. It's like if they recorded the Star Fox 64 dialogue.
You lose the heart. There's heart to it.
Yeah.
And the silliness. It's like Resident Evil. The first Resident Evil game is another one that's just like classically bad.
Yeah.
Jill Valentine, the master of unlocking. And it's like, oh, you were almost a Jill sandwich when the ceiling comes down and she gets out. And it's just, it sounds like it's said through like 7 like tin cups, like from like around the corner inside someone's house.
Mhm.
It's super compressed and horrible. But that's early PlayStation audio recording for you.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's playing this game for the dialogue, that's for sure.
No way.
I am. I am. How dare you? I am.
It's fun, it's there. It adds some texture, but you're playing this game for like the gameplay and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we should mention the music in this stage. We talked a little bit about the sound effects, but the music is by a composer named Michiru Yamane. Miss Yamane has done a lot of work, but she's primarily known for the Castlevania series. And she did the entire score for this game, except for a few tracks that are reused from previous games. But there are actually 2 tracks we should talk about here. There's one called Prologue, which is the music that plays during the stage part of the stage, which is just walking up some stairs and going through a door. But then there's Dance of Illusions, which is the music that plays when you confront Dracula. What did you guys think of these tracks?
I love all the music in this game.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect. It was great. It was just the right amount of spooky and the right amount of exciting and it was fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. Gets you psyched up, man.
Oh yeah.
So the stage itself, like we said, is quite short. You just go up these stairs. There is a secret area. Did you guys find the secret area?
Nope.
Well, the secret area is once you get up the stairs, there's like a little switch you can whip. You can kind of see it. There's like one block in the ceiling that's kind of broken and crumbling. And if you attack that block, you trigger a switch that lowers a secret staircase. And if you go up there, there's absolutely fucking nothing of value. It's a bunch of like items you can pick up, but Richter can't use them. So it's just there for funsies, really. But it is a reference to Rondo of Blood, where there is a very similar secret in the final stage.
Okay.
And also, whether you go in there or pick them up or don't pick them up can affect what stats and stuff you get with Alucard.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm really proud of myself that I figured out how to make Richter run. Like, like watching this video that we're enjoying to talk about this level, like seeing how he's flipping around and doing all these jumps and all these special attacks. Like, I figured out how to do a special attack. Like I did the rain thing, and I think I wasted it on accident because I was figuring it out. And like, but yeah, no, watching him do all the flips and jumps and find the secret area, I was like, well, fuck me sideways. This is I suck.
No, you don't suck, Aaron. You're
right. The game sucks. Fuck this game.
We support you, even though you're kind of bad at video games. We love you anyway. What did you guys think of the Dracula boss fight itself?
I mean, if I think about it, when I first played it as a kid, I was like, what the fuck is this shit? When he turns into like Muscles Dracula.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's cool. It's so short that at this point in my lifelong enjoyment of this game, I don't even think about it, to be honest, because I know it's so short and it's just like, okay, yeah, Richter, Belmont. Where's Alucard?
It's kind of like the opening stage of Super Metroid, the space station, where you just want to get through it as quickly as possible and get to the real part of the game.
Well, so how accurate is this to what it was like in Rondo of Blood?
Very accurate. Yeah.
Not 100%, but yeah, like pretty much 2 stages.
Yeah. Let me show you guys a video so you can see what the Rondo of Blood version looks like.
Because if it's as accurate as you say, then I'd be pissed if that was the last boss for Rondo of Blood, like, because this boss is not that difficult.
Well, you got to keep in mind the controls for the character were very different.
That's fair.
Yeah,
it's a lot more intimidating in Rondo of Blood. So in most Castlevania games, this is pretty faithful to what a Dracula confrontation is like. He, is generally sitting on a throne. He's like got a goblet that he tosses down in disgust. And then he does the thing where he like appears and disappears. He'll open his cape, shoot out some fireballs, and only his head is vulnerable. And it's been that way in the original Castlevania, and a lot of the Dracula encounters are like totally that way. Okay, but here you're seeing Rondo of Blood now, Aaron, and as you can see, it's very similar. It even has the final stage Bloodlines title card pop up, although that was in the English translation that they did later. I'm not sure what the Japanese title of this stage would be. But you got the secret area up there with, nothing of like tangible value, just some money bags for points. You whip some candles, you get the item you want, either the cross or the holy water. And then it's right into Dracula's chamber to confront the Lord of all vampires.
You know what I appreciate? I appreciate how how Richter takes every goddamn step that he's going up a staircase. He
struts, man.
One step at a time. It's like.
I like his idle animation. You can like see his muscles flexing a little bit. Yeah,
more like Ripter. Am I right?
You got it, brother. So, I mean, Richter is definitely not as athletic in Rondo as he is in Symphony, but he can do like a fair amount of things that like the Belmonts from the NES years couldn't do. For example, he can do a backflip. I'm not sure if that gets demonstrated in this video we're watching, but if you press X twice, he like in rapid succession, he'll jump and then do a backflip. So he gets a little bit of extra air and he goes backwards. And that's like really useful for avoiding certain enemies. And he can also moonwalk. If you hold the attack button, he'll whip, but then you can like kind of walk backwards if you're still holding the attack button. So that's kind of useful. And then if you whip and then tap forward, the whip will get extended just like a few pixels and go just like a little bit further than it normally would, which can be kind of useful in a pinch too. So he's got some moves, and he's got the item crashes, of course. Those are in Rondo as well.
He could duck underneath the fireballs in Rondo here, which was pretty useful.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate. And actually, the very first time you fight Dracula in Castlevania 1 is kind of similar to this as well. First form is like him opening the cape, and second form, he turns into a big fuck off monster.
You can't run in Rondo, I see.
No, you cannot. At least not as Richter. So
yeah, that you can get into that, but there's an unlockable character in Rondo of Blood.
Yes.
Who go ahead.
Aaron, and before we say who that is, Aaron, did you die at all in your battle against Dracula in Symphony of the Night?
So I've played it a few times because getting to the save spot, but I tried finding the save spot before looking at the walkthrough, so I died a couple times and I had to play it a couple times. Sometimes Dracula was super easy, and then other times I just couldn't get in the groove and he kicked my butt, and then I had to get saved.
Yeah, he's kind of hard, except that he's not hard at all because it's literally impossible to die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, oh no, and then little one popped out of nowhere.
A 12-year-old girl ran out with all her animal friends and saved me.
Yeah. So like the basic story in Rondo is that Dracula shows up, he kidnaps like 4 maidens, one's your girlfriend, and you got to go save them. One of the maidens is this little girl. I forgot her name already. Maria
Renard.
So she's 12 years old, little girl. But if you save her, you can play as her, and she's like glass cannon. But she can like dash and like summon these big ass fucking monsters that kick ass for her.
She can double
jump, and it's like super movement. It's like her movement must have been like an inspiration for how everyone moves in Symphony of the Night, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's easy mode. I mean, once you unlock Maria, there's no reason to play as Richter after that.
Instead of a chain, she flips out doves.
Yeah.
Like she has 2 doves that go straight out and back. That's her attack.
Yeah, battle doves.
Super useful because it can like hit enemies twice, like as it's coming back. And just everything about her is good.
And in Symphony of the Night, she's actually grown up now. And it's just weird. Everyone's who knows anything about Castlevania in the game, it's like, what the fuck's going on? Because this castle's only supposed to show up every like 100 years, and it's been like 14 years or so. I don't remember how long they said, but it hasn't been 100.
Yeah, it's been 5 years. Rondo of Blood takes place in, I believe, the 1700s, like 1770 or something like that. And then Yeah, and then 5 years later, so Maria was 12 and now she's 17, I
Yeah.
think. So she's still jailbait, but it's not like pedo type shit. It's just sort of creepy instead of like super creepy.
But she's in the game, and you actually talk with her and stuff as Alucard. So it's kind of interesting. Like, not knowing that when I played it, I was really confused. Like, who the fuck are these people? Why am I playing as someone else? Who is this woman? I don't know what she's talking about. You have like no context, and no one had the context because no one had played this fucking game. The only way you could have played it was a very, very bad port of it on the Super Nintendo, Dracula X, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it didn't really work well on the Super Nintendo, and it was kind of a bad game that's notoriously bad.
Yeah. Pretty infamous.
So, but it's cool to like see those connections and how it's like a straight up direct sequel more than any of the other games he really kind of had before. Like Alucard was in Castlevania 3, I believe, but he's basically a completely different person. Like
he is,
he's nothing like he was in the third game.
No, totally different. He looks different. He plays different. Totally different guy.
Yeah.
So I actually played through Rondo a little bit for before this episode because it came with the collection I got. The Requiem collection on PS4 has Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night in it. And I gotta say, Rondo of Blood is a pretty sick game. I mean,
it looks cool.
It's super fun to play. Like, it's you're not totally locked into a jump. You have some control. Like after you jump, you're not fully committed. You can like back off a little bit. You can like jump straight up and then still move left and right a little bit. With Richter, and then with Maria, you can just jump all over the place. It doesn't matter at all. But it's still a little stiff, in that classic way. It's interesting because this game came out after Super Castlevania 4, and in that game, you play as Simon Belmont, and you have total freedom of movement. You're not locked into your jumps at all. So in this game, they seem to have made a choice to like move a little bit away from that and make it a little bit stiffer, just a little bit more like the classic series.
Richter put it all in strength and none in dexterity.
That's so true, man.
Classic mistake.
So, classic Castlevania games, you're walking upstairs, you're going through doors, you're getting the sub weapons, you got the axe, you got the cross, you got the dagger, you got the holy water, and you got the stopwatch. Although really most of the time you're probably just going to be using the cross or the holy water. But the rest of them are there. They're fun to use. But great variety in stages, and there's actually secret exits in a lot of the stages. So this game actually has a save file system, and it tracks your percentage, and there's a stage select. So at any time you can revisit any previous stage that you want to. And then once you're done with there, you can move right back to the furthest stage you ever got to and just pick whichever one you want and switch characters on the fly. So you have total freedom that way, which is pretty sweet. You don't have to worry about game over or anything like that. But then like you can go back and hunt for these secret exits if you want. There's like 4 or 5 secret stages that are alternate ones. And some of the routes are kind of hard to find. I didn't play any of them because I just wanted to finish the game because the secret routes are a lot more difficult. But if you want to rescue all 4 of the maidens, you have to go to specific stages and solve little puzzles and find keys to open locked doors. And it's all just for fun if you want to get, percentage. And I think there's maybe a different ending if you save them all.
It's there's 4 alternate levels. So like it's the entire level 2, but it's done differently. So it's like route 1 through 4. And then apparently there's one that's 5, but it's shitty. I watched a video Andy linked me to kind of get a history on Rondo, so I haven't played it yet.
Yeah.
But it sounds really cool. Like it's big on replayability. You can play the game multiple times and like different routes and different endings and all that kind of fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then play it again with Maria and just destroy it.
Yeah. Or if you're me, as soon as you unlock Maria, just play as her the entire time.
Yeah.
Suck at the game.
You don't have any curiosity as to what the rest of the game feels like with Richter?
Well, I did go back and fight Dracula's Richter because the ending is different. Maria's ending is just like a
joke.
jokey.
Yeah.
If you want to see the true canonical ending, you got to play as Richter. And there are little cutscenes because this was the TurboGrafx. What
Sorry.
you mean the orb that you collect at the end of the stage?
It looked like a
That's
disco ball. I'm sorry.
that's the traditional Castlevania orb. Whenever
Oh.
you would defeat a boss in the classic series, this little orb would fall from the sky, and it's just like, and you can like jump in the air and like try to whip at the same time as you collect it, and you look real badass if you do that.
It's like stars for Mario, really. It's like it's in almost I don't know if I think they turned away from it for the classic Castlevania games. That's every single boss would give you one.
Yeah. And in Symphony of the Night, as we'll see, you get a health max up instead, but they still kind of retain that tradition.
Yeah. I dig it.
But yeah, I mean, I would say probably out of the 2D games, Rondo is probably the best one. I mean, I like Super Castlevania 4 a lot for the Super Nintendo, but it is like a little more punishing, and it doesn't have like, Maria or branching paths or anything like that. Now, but some people will tell you that Bloodlines for the Genesis is the best one, or at least one of the best ones, because you got two characters in that one too, and no branching paths, but just like a lot of like replayability in terms of like trying out different characters. But I actually haven't played that one, so I couldn't tell you.
These zombies crack me up. I love them.
Yeah, it just they can't wait to die.
That's another thing that's so great about these games, all of them, but specifically Symphony of the Night. There is a wide gamut of enemy types, and you get to a point where you don't see them very long. You're just running around like, hey, that guy's new, blah, 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 dead.
Yep.
Which is gonna be a lot of fun after Doom.
Oh
Same enemies
Yeah.
over and over and over, and
wide
so
variety
many of them.
enemies. The music sounds like real instruments.
Mhm.
It's going to be a good time.
We're
This
living
is
in the future.
Yes.
We really are. I mean, this game has such wide variety, at least until we get to the second half of it. But even then, there's still enemy variety that'll be pretty interesting. Yeah. So Rondo of Blood. I guess not much more to say about it. We're not going to watch the whole playthrough of the game. It's fairly several hours to finish the game, but it is pretty tight. There's lots of cool little set pieces. It's weird because it is like you lose some things from Super 4, like the whip brandishing and swinging on things with your whip, and the freedom of movement, and upgrading your sub weapons and things like that. But you get other things like the backflip, which is super cool, and like the moonwalk thing, and Maria, of course, like totally changes everything. But it's I'd never understood this before, but Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night really are linked together. And there's so many things that we'll be able to point out throughout the course of this series of like enemies and areas and items that are just direct references to Rondo of Blood. So,
They're just watching this video. There's so many enemies in this that are literally the same models, but just touched up a bit in Symphony of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
I remember specifically the big, thick skeletons throwing barrels. I was like, oh shit, okay, yeah, this is basically a direct sequel, which I don't think they had done. It's
not really. I mean, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest is a direct sequel. Because Simon was the hero of both of those games. But those games don't have much plot, so it doesn't really count. Oh yeah. So on screen, if you're listening at home, we're watching a video where Simon has just rescued Maria, and we even get a little cutscene. There's actually like, there's animated cutscenes. There's voice acting because the TurboGrafx had like, I think it had CDs or something, so that they could had a little bit more storage space for that kind of stuff. But yeah, Japanese only for a long time, but they have translated it now. The English dialogue is terrible, and it also doesn't match the lips at all.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So Maria is definitely the best way to play this game. Maria will make an appearance in Symphony of the Night, although she's done a glow up, folks, as we'll see. Richter looks kind of different too. Like his hair is really short in Rondo, and you can't really tell from his model, but like his hair is supposed to be really long now in Symphony of the Night.
It is one thing that I noticed, that both him and Dracula have just gorgeous hair, just luscious locks,
Just
incredible.
It was the time of the Bishonen, Aaron, where every anime dude was super sex town. It had,
But it just made me chuckle because it 100% they did not change anything about his little sprite. So his little sprite still has the headband and the short hair and everything, but then his picture, his profile picture there is just like fabulous. Fucking
the most luscious hair since John Romero.
He's got a mane. It's amazing.
Well, Richter is a playable character in this game, not just in the prologue, but there are ways to play the entire game as Richter, which we can talk about. And actually, in certain versions of this game, even Maria is a playable character. Although it depends on what version you're playing. There's actually 2 versions of Maria, depending on which release of this game you're playing. But we'll get into that at a later date because there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. But in the version I'm playing, you can play as both Richter and Maria. So I'm hoping that we can show that off at some point. But there you go. So we spend a lot of time this episode not talking about the actual stage and just sort of like setting the scene, talking about Rondo of Blood, because I think it's important, like at the start, to figure out like where we're coming from here. Like the Symphony of the Night, as a kid, I had never played Rondo of Blood. I had no idea. I still enjoyed this game. It's still incredible. But I think when you know all the connections to Rondo of Blood, there's just like a lot more like nuance and detail that you can get out of Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, and there's we didn't talk about any of the text crawl because there is some text crawl. I don't know if we want to save that for next time, but provides a little more. It informs, for one thing, Sam's picture that he's decided to go with.
Oh yeah,
we haven't talked about him
today.
Yeah. The bad guy of Rondo of Blood.
That's true.
The secret bad guy. Or one of the, like, there's bad guys and bad guys. There's Dracula and then bad guys.
Yeah. There's always like a deuteragonist, a secondary antagonist, which is like, or something like that. But anyway, there's always a secondary antagonist who's like trying to resurrect Dracula. And so in Rondo of Blood, it is the Dark Priest Shaft. That's right. He's one bad mother. Shut your mouth. And he does indeed resurrect Dracula. You defeat and fight Shaft a couple times throughout the course of the game. But wouldn't you know it, that motherfucker Shaft came back and he's resurrected. Well, he's doing some nefarious shit, which we'll find out more about throughout the course of this game. But again, like if you'd never played Rondo of Blood, you'd be like, who the fuck is this Shaft guy?
Yeah. It's interesting how much of it relies on your knowledge of the previous game.
Mm-hmm.
And then no one knowing anything about that game.
Nope. So I don't know. It was generous of them to have that prologue, that final stage Bloodlines. At least you get that little bit. And you can kind of understand who Richter is and who he is in like the plot of this game. But yeah, it's not like you're totally lost. It makes sense. But there's little details where like you can kind of tell there's like more to this thread that you're not getting.
And they want to plug their previous games. Like go buy this game too. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. Play that.
You couldn't.
You couldn't. Yeah.
You couldn't buy the game is the problem.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it. Did you folks have anything else you wanted to say about Prologue Bloodlines before we finish up today?
Sam's picture in the call we're having right now is Shaft, the detective, not just in case that wasn't clear.
Richard Roundtree Shaft, not Dark Priest Shaft.
No, I think we covered it all. At least everything that I noticed from the 2-minute.
Yeah, it's very short section, but we can really sink our teeth into it next week.
I see what you did there. Yeah, we've got so much lore, so much history. I mean, we haven't even talked yet about the historical character of Vlad the Impaler, the real actual historical person who Vlad Tepes Dracula is based on. So much stupid lore with the Castlevania franchise. I mean, it's just like it seems at this point like an endless trove of dumb things to talk about.
Yeah, we're in for a good time with this game. Is the point.
Yes.
This game's gonna be a lot of fun gameplay and a lot of fucking ridiculous lore and silliness, and it's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I love goofy, stupid lore.
Yes, me too.
You came to
In
the
more
right
ways than
game,
one.
then.
Oh, I wanted to tell you guys this. This is something funny I read. We'll talk more about the development of the game and like the people that made it. But you know, in various interviews, they've talked about like when they were working on this game, what what they were inspired by, and they said The Legend of Zelda. And like instead of Metroid, they said The Legend of Zelda, and it's like, come on, guys, like you're not fooling anybody.
Specifically, Legend of Zelda 2, Link's Adventure.
Yeah.
Hey, no, man.
Really got in there.
You can use a sword and shield in this game. It's clearly based on Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they took all the hearts out, which is weird since there's hearts in Zelda.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
Hey, you got to get heart pieces from the bosses you kill. Technically, when you get your health,
and the candles drop hearts, and then you use them to activate your sub weapons.
Clearly,
bats and skeletons and zombies in Zelda. I mean, come on.
I just think it's funny. Like they're just like they're like, oh, Metroid. No, we weren't thinking about Metroid. No, not at all. That wasn't even in our minds.
I mean, this is not the fact that our map looks exactly like a Metroid game.
And there's like, come on, guys.
Is my protagonist a woman? Does he have an arm cannon? No, he doesn't. Not Metroid.
It's like, there are no guns, and this is not a space game.
Yeah.
They're all like,
you will not find any Metroids in this game. So
yeah,
legally we're in the clear.
Legally in the clear.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, clearly, like obviously, there's some inspiration there, and I'm not saying they like copied or anything. It's just funny how like they won't say that. I mean,
yeah, it's weird.
And like, I mean, obviously, Castlevania 2, they were like, looking back at that when they made this game, but Castlevania 2 came out a year after the original Metroid 2. So, it's like, and again, Metroid wasn't the first game to do that style of game. There's antecedents on all kinds of older consoles, but it's like the one that made it famous. So I'm sure Koji Igarashi and the rest of the crew knew quite well what Metroid was.
I, for one, am going to take them at their word. I totally see it, and I believe them.
No, they just were on the forums and they saw everyone raging about it, and they're like, okay, dude, I got an interview tomorrow. Just check this shit out.
I'm going to say I was inspired by Legend of Zelda. All right. Yeah, that's going to do it, I think. So we'll wrap it up there, fellas. We'll be back next week in your podcast feeds, where we will talk about the first area of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the first proper area, which is called the Entrance. So you can look forward to that in about a week's time. Sam, do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners at home?
Yeah, don't watch Doom Annihilation. I'm going to say that again, just to make sure. I'm speaking directly to a certain person I know listens to this podcast and felt like she might need to watch it just to experience it like we did. No, please don't.
Yeah, don't
do it. For the love of God, don't do it.
Sam is still haunted by that high headrest on that chair.
I'm haunted by the time I lost
in his mind.
I'm going to die, and I'm going to be like, it's like I could have lived for 2 more hours if I hadn't seen that movie. I know that's not how it works, but that's how I'm going to think about it.
Yeah, when that that final dose of that one chemical hits your brain and you're just like having hallucinations before death, that you're going to be seeing Dominic Maffin with that like giant red key, like opening the teleporter to hell. All right. And Aaron, what do you want to say to the folks at home today?
I want to say thank you for listening, everybody. Please go to onestageatatime.com for more of our things. Like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And please join us next time for Entrance. We're going to meet Alucard. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, with that said, please save and continue.